Hello and welcome to another episode of Andy Shed Live. This is series 17, episode number 6 for Sunday the 25th of May 2025. Hello and welcome to the show, everybody. We were off last week, but we're now back once again. So we can't keep us down for very long. And hello to everybody who's already joining us there in the chat, as you can see. We've got Wesley and Christopher there already. I'm sure there'll be some more people joining in a little bit later. Christopher says that Andy, did my letter arrive? No, it's not got here, Christopher. I think it's gone astray somewhere in the ether. That. Dominic's with us. Hi, Dominic. We are here with you live, of course. 7 o'clock tonight. Still a bit early, really, for me. Even 7 o'clock at night is still early for me. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join in. While I am waiting for them to do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to join in the chat, remember you can on YouTube, at least for now. More on that soon. It's there as well. It's repeated there. Everything in the chat is repeated there. So if you're watching on a smart TV or something, you can see what we're talking about in the chat. If you haven't got access to all the rest of the YouTube page, if you're just watching on a TV, it's all there. And if you're watching on another platform as well, because these videos may be going on to other platforms other than YouTube, because YouTube is starting to act like idiots again. What's new there from Google? So looks like Gambo is with us as well. Hi there, Gambo. Dominic says, is Thor having fun in the background? He is indeed, Dominic. He's got his squeaky ball. Found loads of his squeaky balls this week. He'd sort of deposited them all behind the television unit, the thing the television stands on, somehow. So when we moved that, we found about 10 squeaky balls that he'd lost ages ago, including his favourite squeaky rugby ball and his favourite red squeaky ball, which I think is what he's actually got at the minute. So you'll hear Thor kicking his squeaky balls around probably throughout this tonight. Fat Hobbit is with us. Hello, Fat Hobbit. Dominic says he's got his pizza at the ready. No, crikey, Dominic, I'm not had pizza today. No, not today. No, I'm not on pizza today. It was chicken Kiev for me today, not pizza. So yeah, so Dominic is cooking that. But yes, Thor is having fun in the background, very much so. Keith is with us. Hi, Keith. It's a bit late today. Don't worry, Keith, we'll let you off. It's normally me that's late. It's normally me that's late. The person hosting it is normally the one who's late. We will let you off. So what's everybody been up to this week? It's been a weird week, actually. It's gone strangely quickly this week, and they don't normally, but this one has somehow. So I don't quite know what's happened there. And of course we've got a bank holiday again tomorrow as well, which will really throw me off for next week. I'll literally not know what day it is, but as I say, it is a bank holiday again. Quite why you have them all together and then don't have another one for months and months and months, I will never know. It doesn't seem the most organised thing in the world, does it? Gambo says the boy and I have had our pizza. Is this a thing then, pizza on this show? Does everybody eat a pizza on this show? Have I started some sort of trend I'm not aware of? Does everybody have to have a pizza? Have I started some sort of cult of the pizza? Right. Maybe I should be getting onto Goodfellas or something and see if I can get a commission for all these pizzas that they're selling. Yeah. Highly shared is sponsored by Goodfellas. No, not really. No, right. I'm just looking what everybody's up to. Right, I'm hoping this is all coming in loud and clear today. It's a challenge, YouTube, these days. Let's just say that YouTube is a challenge these days. It gets harder. You think with the internet, you think things would get easier, wouldn't you? But no, not YouTube. It actually gets harder and harder and harder to use YouTube. I don't know if you've noticed or not. I think the next thing will be they force everybody to sign in. I think that's coming soon. I rail against it. I try not to sign into anything if I can help it. Particularly things that require two-factor authentication, which is my absolute pet hate. I hate two-factor authentication. Absolutely hate it. A username and a password should be enough. So yeah, I've noticed PayPal has stopped using two-factor authentication actually. Yeah, that seems to have stopped on PayPal. They were using it for a while and they seem to have stopped. I just wish everybody else would, because I hate it. Gambo says, this week I've been sweating whilst delivering frozen pizzas, ice creams and slabs of juice. I eat 24 cans of juice. Does juice come in cans? I thought it came in cartons or bottles even. Dominic says, did you hear about the heritage trams coming back to Blackpool? The heritage trams that have never been away, Dominic. Yes, and it's not terribly great news actually. There is hidden badness about it that I'm not sure if I can fully explain. But yes, I have heard about them coming back at precisely the wrong time of year. Yeah. Apparently 3 of the heritage cars in Blackpool, of which they've got I reckon they've probably still got about 30, and 3 of them, so let's say 10% are coming back in October for the light pool event in Blackpool, which is a non-event, and that's being charitable to it. They're coming back in October, which is well towards the end of traditional illumination season. The illuminations used to end sort of at the end of October in Blackpool. That's when they used to end. Since COVID, they've gone on until New Year. They've carried on until New Year. The reason they now carry on, basically, is because pretty much all of Blackpool's illuminations, if not all of them, have been replaced now with LEDs. So the filament bulbs that used to be in the illuminations have been replaced with LEDs. LED panels that they're now put up, so they're a lot cheaper to run, so they can run them for longer, for more weeks of the year. The problem with that is having a longer season dilutes down the number of people in Blackpool on any one day. It doesn't bring more people to Blackpool, it dilutes down the actual number of people who are there. So let's, for want of talking, say when the illuminations used to run from basically end of August to end of October, so September and October basically, those 2 months, let's say Blackpool got 100,000 visitors in a day. Now it runs for 4 months and they get 50,000 visitors in a day, if that. And if you don't believe me, look on YouTube, type in a walk on the whale side, and there's a brilliant guy in Blackpool called, I think his name's Stephen actually, but he goes under the handle of Walk on the Wild Side, and he's lived in Blackpool I think all his life, does some fantastic videos about Blackpool and about life in Blackpool, both the touristy bits and the other side of Blackpool, the more grotty side of Blackpool. And he will often do live streams off the promenade in illumination season, and there's literally nobody there. Literally nobody there. Now, when I used to go regularly to the illuminations, sort of 20 years ago, it was packed. You know, it was packed. It used to take, who here used to go years ago, and it used to take 3, 4, maybe 5 hours to drive a couple of miles through the lights. Now you can go straight up the promenade at whatever the speed limit is. You can get through in half an hour easily. You can do it in 3/4 an hour on a bicycle, as they do when they have ride the lights at the beginning of the season. So the problem is now, the number of people in Blackpool on any day have been diluted down 50%. So there's 50% less people, but spread over 50% more days, because instead of it running for 2 months, it now runs for 4 months. So all the cafes have got to pay all their staff for an extra 2 months, all the hotels have got to pay their staff for an extra 2 months, yada yada yada. They're all using heat, light and power in their businesses for an extra 2 months of the year, but not getting any extra people. In fact, they're getting less people overall, because the illuminations, since they've gone over to being LEDs, are so poor, it's shocking. Anybody who can remember the illuminations from sort of 20 years ago, 20 or 30 years ago, and how great they were, and lights everywhere and that, go now to the middle of the promenade right outside the tower, and you will be shocked at how few there are and how dull they are. They've just somehow lost the twinkle as they've gone over to LEDs. It's really, really, really not very good. I mean, they've always had lights across the road and things, but they used to have things like on the lamp columns at the side of the road, and then facing out towards the sea they had tableaus and that, but on the main promenade they had little tableaus, and the big ones on North Shore. The big ones on North Shore are still there, but the little ones on the main promenade have all gone, and the things off the lamppost standards have gone. There's just lights across the road now, and that's basically all it is, and they're LEDs, and they're just not very bright. It is nowhere near as good as it was, and hence people are not going there in the same way that they used to, and because of that, all the businesses in Blackpool are struggling, but people used to ride on the trams because that was a part of going to Blackpool. Nobody wants to ride on these horrible modern things they've got now. Nobody cares anymore. So people don't have a ride on a tram now in Blackpool. Last time I went with Gambo and Dominic, and we did the live show, you will notice no part of that live show came off a Blackpool tram, and that's when the heritage cars were still running, because there were so few of them, and no part of that live show came off of a heritage tram. Keith says to save money they will probably have AI running the illumination soon. I don't think it takes AI. I think they've just got to switch them on, Keith. And they're probably on a timer anyway, so they just sort of flick on when it goes dark and flick off at like whatever time, midnight or 2 in the morning or what. I don't know what time they actually go off. It's quite late though. So yeah, it's weird. Gambo says one of the heritage trams in storage is the one that hit Alan on Coronation Street. Yeah, 710, the Alan Bradley tram. It's got quite a lot of claims to fame. 710. It's the one that went to Christ in 1985, so it missed the centenary in 1985 because it went to Christ as a swap for something there. Because it was at Christ in 1985 when Annika Rice went to Christ and filmed an episode of Treasure Hunt, it's actually on that episode of Treasure Hunt. So Coronation Street's not the first time it was on TV. It went back to Blackpool, got repainted when it returned to Blackpool, and the reason that was chosen to hit Alan Bradley is because it was the only one in the fleet that was clean at the time. So yeah, 710's got quite a claim to fame. Now when the upgrade came a few years ago, and they basically got rid of all the heritage trams, they sold 710. But luckily have managed to get it back. Well, they've been given it back. They sold it for £2,000 and were given it back for nothing when people realised how much it cost to actually keep a heritage tram. And I think I'm right in that. I think I'm right that they sold them for £2,000 each. But they've got it back, but there's absolutely no plans to put it back into running order. Wouldn't you have thought that would be one that people would want to see? Wouldn't you have thought that's one they ought to put back into operation and get it back out on the prom? Wouldn't you have thought that? Open top double-decker Princess Alice, wouldn't you have thought the overhaul that they've been doing on that for years and years and years, and tried to get crowdfunded actually, and some people put up a fair amount of money towards it? Wouldn't you think they should finish that off and get that open topper back out on the prom? None of these 3 cars that are coming back out in October are open toppers, and open toppers always attract punters. Even in October, when it's cold and it's dark and it's wet and it's miserable, people will still ride on an open top tram. And they've just completely dropped the ball. Completely and totally dropped the ball as far as I can see. So yeah, what you're getting in October is you are getting the frigate, which is a illuminated car made to look like a naval frigate, HMS Blackpool, which did actually exist in reality, and when that tram was reconstructed to be HMS Blackpool was actually sold by the Royal Navy around about the same time, so that was a bit embarrassing. You are getting the Western train that was done up using lottery money and supposedly restored using lottery money a few years ago, but has now been butchered, so it's nothing like how it was when it was restored. And you are getting a balloon car, and we're not sure which one. My guess is it will be the one that they got some money to very superficially restore it back into its supposedly near original condition, but it's actually not. And it's now called Walter Luff. It carries the name now, Walter Luff. My guess is that's the one you'll get, but I don't know for certain. But it's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers, because the selection of vehicles is not great. And what they've done now to suddenly be able to come back when they said that for this summer season they couldn't run them because there were challenges and operational problems and that. What were those problems, and what have they done to solve those problems? How come those problems have suddenly gone away? I think it's nonsense, personally. I think it is absolute nonsense. I think they know that if they put out a heritage service all day every day, people would leave the modern trams behind to get on the heritage ones, and they would have the embarrassment of a multi-million-pound modern fleet that nobody wants to travel on. And I think that's why they're trying to get rid of the heritage trams, to force people onto the new ones. But of course it's not working, because tourists aren't interested in travelling on the new ones. Tourists will just walk, get in their own car, get a taxi, whatever, and are just generally not interested. If they wanted to have a modern fleet in Blackpool, why was that modern fleet not delivered? All of them with illuminations fitted to the outside. Why was that modern fleet not delivered all as illuminated cars with LED strips or something on the outside of all of them? So come illumination season, they could just switch the LEDs on. All of them should have been illuminated cars. Why was that not done? It's just insane. It's absolutely insane. The woman that is running Blackpool Transport now, the general manager woman that's running it now, I wouldn't trust her to run a bath. By far the worst manager Blackpool Transport has ever had. Ever. Yeah. If people like Walter Luff, and particularly the great showman manager that they had in the sort of 50s and 60s, Joe Franklin, if Joe could see what they're doing now, he'd absolutely have a coronary. It was a great showman, Joe Franklin. It was on his watch that most of the illuminated cars got built, because he saw the potential in attracting tourists onto the trams, and that he invested in the double deckers and the balloons that hadn't had any money spent on them for years. Walter Luff wanted to get rid of them, even though he created them in the first place. Later on he wanted to get rid of them, but Joe said no. When Joe Franklin took over, he said no, people want to ride on double deckers, they come to see the sea view, and you get a great view of the sea from the top of a double decker between Blackpool and Fleetwood. And he was right, and he actually put more seats upstairs so more people could go upstairs on a balloon car, did Joe Franklin. Yeah, he was a great showman, Joe. He was a great guy. Unfortunately, just slightly before my time, so I never actually met him in person. But all the stories you hear about Joe Franklin are just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's on his watch that they got a supermodel at the time, called Marnie Birchall, to get on the front of the hover tram. And the hover tram, although it's supposedly a hovercraft, it's weird because it looks like a boat. People think it's a double-decker boat, because it's got like a prow like a boat's got. It's not shaped like a hovercraft at all, even though it's supposed to be a hovercraft. And Joe had the idea that for the switch on of the illuminations, the Mayor of Blackpool and model Marnie Birchall, who was also, the celebrity doing the lights at that time, would ride on two chairs strapped to the prow of this boat. So there's like the pointy bit of a boat, which is the front of this tram, where they're going to put these two chairs, and then just behind them is the driver, and the driver's going to sort of peer between them or something, because he's in a little cab thing, the driver. And the way you get out onto the prow of this tram, because you don't normally go out there, that's normally just a flat level surface that the driver looks over, but they put these two chairs on it for this special event. And the way that Marnie and the mayor were supposed to get out was by opening the flip-up windscreen and climbing out through the driver's windscreen. And there's a wonderful quote in a book by Steve Palmer about it that says, in the act of climbing out onto the prow, the mayor lost 3 buttons off his jacket, and Miss Birchall had similar problems. And something similar happened to Jane Mansfield as well when Jane Mansfield did it. But yeah, it's just bonkers. It's just bonkers what is going on in Blackpool now. It's an absolute travesty. Just go there and the town is so run down. They've spent millions upon millions upon millions upon millions trying to rejuvenate Blackpool over the years, and they're still spending them now. In the last 20 years, they spent multi-millions, maybe even billions, trying to rejuvenate Blackpool, and none of it has worked. And if you go there now, it's an absolute ghost town. It really is. The only reason you go to Blackpool these days is to buy drugs. Right, what are people saying in the chat? I'm just going through it. Oh, Bill's us here. Hi, Bills. Gambo says, I've been watching the demolition of the courthouse and soon also the police station in Blackpool. Yes, Gambo, they're going to redevelop huge swathes of Blackpool, but what are they going to put there that nobody's going to go into? Bill says, I'm just having my tea. Are you having pizza, Bills? Everybody else seems to be. Christopher says, Melbourne Tramways is starting to withdraw and scrap the 1970s Z3 class trams. Now Melbourne has 87 now and now in service is 27, so that's not good. Neville's here. Hi Neville. He says, hi all. Some random dog managed to come over as a migrant from France. Did you see that in the news? Yeah, I've not got any problem letting the dogs in. I've just got a problem letting the terrorists in. So yeah, I don't mind the dogs. I just don't like everybody else that comes in a boat. Fill the boats with dogs would be all right. And actually, there's more chance of the dog getting a job than anybody else on that boat, isn't there? Keith says, I agree. I would always want to go on a heritage tram. So much a better experience. Yeah, totally agree, Keith. As does the entirety of the world, except this idiot that is currently running Blackpool Transport. Keith says, the trouble is these people are never held accountable. She will probably get a gong and end up in the House of Lords. Probably, yeah. But at least you'll not be running Blackpool Transport anymore then, so that will be a good thing. Yeah. Yeah. The woman is hopeless. The woman is useless. Really, absolutely and totally useless. Yeah. I can tell you stories about how much money they had to give back when the heritage tram stopped just before Christmas. How many tours were pre-booked for Christmas for Santa specials. There was even somebody who had got a private hire for a wedding in the new year booked, who had to be told, sorry, you can't have this private. Now what would they have charged for a private hire for a wedding? Probably sky's the limit. And they were told, no, sorry, we can't do it, have your money back. How much money did Blackpool Transport lose because they couldn't manage to put one heritage tram out? Absolutely shocking service. Terrible. terrible, terrible. I can't tell you how bad it is. I just can't even begin to tell you how absolutely useless they are these days. Dominic says it's a real shame nobody makes modern double-decker trams anymore. They do, Dominic. Well, I don't know if they make double-deckers, but there's certainly people that make modern trams that look like heritage trams. In America, there's a company that does it. That makes a sort of heritage tram. Over here, I think Alan Keefe's company that makes sort of narrow gauge rolling stock for railways and these little trains at theme parks and that. I bet they'd have a damn good go if you asked them. If you said to them, I want you to build me a modern tram that looks like a vintage tram, or build it to this vintage pattern, I bet you they'd have a damn good go at it. Dominic says, at least you would get a decent view, even if on a rock hard seat. Yeah, the seats aren't that hard actually, the double deckers. Yeah, you can have a heritage tram with soft seats on the top deck. The balloons that were originally open toppers, when they were open toppers, had wooden seats upstairs, and when they got enclosed in the Second World War, they just thinly upholstered over the wooden seats. But over the years, most of those wooden seats have got changed for much plusher seats out of scrapped single deckers. So basically all those original wooden seats have gone. I have travelled on one with the thinly upholstered wooden seats, and to be honest, it wasn't that bad. It was not that bad. Yeah. Fat Hobbit says Cambridge has an interesting tram history. They used to have horse-drawn trams around the city centre. All that remains is the tram shed, which is a pub. Yes, I don't think any rolling stock has survived from Cambridge. Yeah, I don't think anything survived from Cambridge. A couple have survived from Norwich. A couple of trams have survived from Norwich, but not from Cambridge as far as I'm aware. Dominic says the modern trams are very uncomfortable. The wooden ones seem quite comfortable by comparison. The reason the modern trams are uncomfortable, Dominic, is because they've gone back in time in the geometry of how they're made. The trams originally were four-wheelers. They had four wheels, a fixed truck with four wheels on, and they were quite shaky. You can imagine. They were quite shaky and quite uncomfortable. Go on one at Christ. Go on something like LCC 106, Southampton 45, Paisley 68, Chesterfield 7, any of those at Cryche. They're all four-wheelers, first generation four-wheelers. Try any of those and you'll find, and Cryche is quite a straight line actually, but imagine if you were going around corners, they'd be quite horrendous. Then they started building bogie cars basically in the 20s and 30s, and bogie cars, because they've basically got twice as many wheels, when a wheel goes over a bump or a joint in the track, it's less of a jar because that joint is suppressed by the other wheels, kind of thing. So bogie cars on 8 wheels are better than being on 4 wheels, because if one wheel goes over a bump or something, there's another 7 wheels to counteract it. Whereas if it's a 4-wheel car, 1 wheel goes over a bump, there's only 3 wheels to counteract it. Now, the problem with the modern vehicles is they are not bogie cars anymore. At least not in Blackpool. In Sheffield they are. In Blackpool they are not. In Blackpool, a modern tram consists of 5 separate units with articulations between them. And those 5 units are actually 3 4-wheel trams joined together by 2 what are effectively long tow bars, and those long tow bars have got 2 more extra body sections built on them. So the 5-section tram in Blackpool is, that end is a 4-wheel tram, the next bit's got no wheels at all, it's effectively a tow bar, the next bit is another 4-wheel tram, the next bit is effectively a tow bar, and the other end is a 4-wheel tram. So it's 3 4-wheel trams, and they are very short wheelbase, and the body sections are quite long for the wheelbase. They're a tiny wheelbase for the body section, and of course they get lots of body roll and that, and they're horrendous. They're worse than the original 4-wheelers were. And it's all to do with this stupid nonsensical having to be low floor and that. But they've built bloody platforms at every tram stop, so why do they need to be low floor? Answer, they don't. So, yeah. Answers on the proverbial postcard, please. But they are absolute rubbish to ride on. You'll find the Edinburgh ones are equally bad. Nottingham, I'm not sure about Nottingham. The original Nottingham ones are not like that. They're not too bad, the original Nottingham ones, because they're not built in that way. They're not these 5-section 3 4-wheelers and 2 tow bars joined together. But anything that's 5 sections basically is 2 4-wheelers and a tow bar between them, basically, with a body section built on the tow bar. So you've got one unit that's got 4 wheels, you've got a unit that's got no wheels at all, that is then pressing down on the back end of that thing that have got the 4 wheels. So all the weight's on one end of that. Then you've got another unit that's got 4 wheels, then you've got another unit that's got no wheels at all, then you've got another unit that's got 4 wheels, and all that's joined together to make a 5-section tram. Dominic says, I think the net is uncomfortable. Yeah, remember they've got 2 different sorts of trams on the net though now, Dominic. And I've not been on the newest ones. The newest ones on the net, the more sort of curvy ones, are made by a company called CAF, C-A-F, or C-A-F-F. And I always say that the C should have been an N. Yeah, so I always refer to them as NAF. And they are NAF. CAF's vehicles are... CAF also built the ones that are currently running in Birmingham on the West Midlands system, that all had to get taken out of service en masse because the bodies were cracking. Above the doors, the bodies were actually breaking in two. And that's because it was a unit with a tiny little 4-wheel truck underneath it, and then it's got these bits at the end that are weight pressing down on the ends of that 4-wheel truck, and those next pieces are unsupported. And they wondered why it started to crack and fall apart above the doors. So they all got withdrawn en masse, and for a while I think the entire system stopped running for a while, if I remember right, about a year ago. They've allegedly been repaired now. Quite how they've been repaired, what they've done to repair them, I don't know. But I can't imagine it's a great repair that they've done. But yeah, they are not very good at all. About the best of the original well, the only original ones of the second generation tramways that are still in service really are the ones in Sheffield. They are the oldest second generation trams now still in service. They are talking about getting rid of them, but they are actually pretty good, the Sheffield ones. They look dog ugly, but they actually do work quite well. And they are not bad, but they are traditional, proper bogie cars. Dominic says the local fitters apparently nicknamed the CAF DMUs in the Midlands cheap as fuck. Is that what it stands for? That's what CAF actually stands for. Yeah, it could be, couldn't it? I just call them NAF. It really upsets someone you call them NAF. Christopher says here in Melbourne the V-Line railway network's not worth filming anymore. No, probably not. Train spotters only on the Swan Hill. Yeah, they're just hopeless. See, the problem is nobody knows how to run a tramway anymore. It's a skill that died out in Glasgow in 1962, and then come 1990 whatever, when that skill was required again, there's a whole generation of people who haven't got it. And so we've now got people running tramways who've got no idea how to run tramways. So yeah, basically. Fat Hobbit says, I used to like the seats that you could swing around to face the other way. Yeah, well, yeah, what they call the swing over seats. Yeah. Yes, they were very good. Some were right finger trappers though on some of the vehicles where they haven't been installed right. They put them in slightly too close together, so when you fold one over and the other one's facing the other way, you trap your fingers between them. Been there, done that. Yeah. But yes, it's like all vehicles, modern vehicles. I've been at a vintage vehicle and stationary engine tractor rally today, and one of the things we've been talking about today was if you could go forward in time 50 or 60 years, what will be at an event like that? And my thought is probably much the same as is there today, because you certainly won't have got a new generation of stuff being preserved, because modern vehicles are not built well enough to last that long and can't be easily maintained. So you won't be restoring a modern vehicle because they're just so shoddily built, you'll just not be able to weld them up and stuff like that. They'll just literally fall apart as powder in your hands. So yeah, I don't think they'll be carrying on. I really don't. So, yeah, I think there'll be the same vehicles as are there today. That are there in 50 or 60 years time, and I think they will probably survive. The thing that's going to get interesting is when they stop you buying new diesel and petrol cars, because I think old diesel and petrol cars will absolutely skyrocket in price. everybody will want one, I think, because by the time that comes round, people like me who have experimented with an electric car will have done the experiment. They'll have had an electric car and they'll have gone, "Pfft, not buying another one of them." You can cocoa, mate. Yeah, which people are already doing. There are already electric cars being abandoned by dealers at the side of the road. And that, there's a brilliant channel on YouTube called Jeff Buys Cars. If you want to know the truth about electric cars and how rubbish they are, just watch Jeff Buys Cars videos on YouTube. He's very entertaining, but he does speak the truth. Yeah. There may be an Escape the Shed coming up about the so-called electric highway and these recharging stations, because I've got one near me that was supposed to have been built and it was supposed to be open last year, and it's still just a skeleton structure because they are trying not to build it now, because the people that own it have realised that it's going to be a complete and total white elephant. So they're trying not to actually construct it. They're trying to make it take as long as possible to construct so they don't have to operate it. And that's at Markham Vale if you want to look it up. Dominic says, hopefully they'll give Miliband the sack. Yes, hopefully they'll put Miliband in the sack and drop him off the end of North Pier. Yeah. Yeah. I think we've got the worst government in the world now, anywhere. I would quite happily have Vladimir Putin in charge rather than Keir Starmer, because one of them is a scary dictatorial tyrant and the other one is Vladimir Putin. Yeah. I've got quite a simple slogan for you today. Never vote Labour. It's as simple as that, 3 words. Never vote Labour. Just remember that. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. Dominic said, it makes eating bacon sarnies look competent. Not quite sure I get that, Dominic. You have to explain that one to me. I've been a bit slow there. Fat Orbit says, I think you'll be shipped off to Siberia if you lived in Russia, Andy. Possibly. Well, they're shipping people off now that live in Britain, aren't they? They're arresting people for stuff they put on Twitter now, aren't they? So I'm probably going to be in big trouble now. If they said they should drop Ed Miliband off the end of North Pier, I'm probably going to get in big trouble for that now, because nobody can take a joke anymore, can they? No. And you know why they can't take a joke anymore? Because they're scared that people are going to take it seriously, and people might just take it seriously because what you said as a joke is actually what most people do actually want to happen. That's how hated the government is. What I want to know is there any mechanism in UK government where if enough people want rid of a Prime Minister, if there is a mechanism where an early election can be called by the people. If enough people get together and sign something, is there a mechanism where an early election can be called? I wanted to know this. I was going to go on Radio 2 and ask this question, and surprise, surprise, the loony lefty BBC decided not to take my call when they knew what I was going to say. Yes. Yeah, but I probably will be shipped off to Siberia. Siberia's alright though, isn't it? Yeah, I think Siberia would be alright, yeah. At least there'd be no boat people in Siberia, would there? So you'd be okay. Don't it say that there was that petition, but he ignored it? Yeah, but that was just a petition. I want to know if there's actually a legal mechanism that can, where it can be done, where an election can be. Probably could have a military coup, couldn't we? No, we've not got enough people in the military now to have a coup, have we? How many boats have we got in the military now? I think there's a rowing boat and a yacht in there, and that's about it. Basically, if we had World War II now, we're screwed. Actually, no, we're not screwed, because Hitler would win if we had World War II now. And you know something, we might be better off. Because Germany's not doing so bad, are they? Think about it. Just a thought. Yeah. Fat Hobbit says it's called a violent revolution, Andy. Yeah, you're not allowed to call for a violent revolution though now, because they put you in jail for saying let's have a violent revolution, don't they? Well, they put you in jail for saying let's wear blue socks today. Absolutely ridiculous. Our prisons are full to overcrowding, but we will put a young mother in there to add to the overcrowding just because of a tweet that was up for 2 hours on Twitter. Absolutely insane. Idiots like that, you know, they'll be running Blackpool Transport next. Christopher says the only trains I ride on now are local hauled NSETs, or the Swan Hill line and Carnegie MU trains on the suburban line, and preserved Red Rattler trains. Yeah. Well, the thing is, Christopher, the good side of it is that now you don't have to spend so much time documenting the rolling stock out on the sort of normal commuter services and that. Perhaps you could go and do a bit of voluntary work in one of your local transport museums or something, who I'm sure will be absolutely delighted to see you and have your help, because most of them around the world are. They're very underfunded and understaffed and want all the help they can get. So that is the thing to do, get down your local transport museum. If you've got a good one, that is. Because some are better than others. Yeah, so I'm just making sure I've not missed anything in the chat. But yeah, so that's basically. How did we get onto all this anyway? Basically, it was Blackpool, wasn't it? So yes, there are going to be 3 heritage trams coming back into service in Blackpool in October. But I think it will only ever be that 3. Personally, I don't think any of the others will ever run again. What I want to know is what do the owners of Bolton 66 think, because that's privately owned by a group, and just lives in Blackpool by courtesy of that group, and is used by Blackpool by courtesy of that group. What do the owners of that think about it suddenly being sidelined? I'd be interested to know what the Bolton 66 people think of what's happened. Yeah, but it's ridiculous. I have said before that the heritage trams in Blackpool can make money, and I'm putting out an open challenge to Blackpool Transport. I've said this before, I've posted this on websites and stuff before. Open challenge to Blackpool Transport, right? Let's see who can make the most money. Yeah, you put your purple modern trams out into service and give me a half decent driver a mechanical Tim ticket machine, none of this electronic nonsense. Give me a mechanical Tim ticket machine from the 1940s, 1950s, which they used to use in Blackpool, a half decent driver, and a balloon car. I don't even want a top guard on it, just one guard, one person, one conductor, not two like they have on the balloons, but one, just me. Let us go out in service all day and let us see how much money we make, and our wages will be 10% of what we take between us. We'll take 10% between us, and I bet you me and that driver one day would earn more than anybody at Blackpool Transport makes working for a day, because I know how much money it's possible to take. I worked in Blackpool for a season on the trams before all this upgrade nonsense happened, and I know how much money it's possible to take on a balloon car. And I've also worked a balloon car single-handed in Blackpool, and it is possible to do because I've done it, and I know from doing a 6 or 7 hour shift, I know how much money I threw down those coin counting machines and that. I know how many £10 notes I took, and it's a scary amount. It's a scary amount. It is multiple hundreds of pounds to do one shift in a day, and there can be, in Blackpool, there can be up to 3 shifts in a day. So if you went all day and did 3 consecutive shifts, boom, 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 you know, from like 5 in the morning till midnight, sort of thing, you'd take well over £1,000, easy. You'd take well over 1,000. If you had your tram in the right places at the right times, which is part of what specials are supposed to do, which is why the B-Fleet balloons are supposed to exist, which is why you need to have inspectors out there directing trams around and not just running to a stupid timetable service that diverts off the promenade and looks like it was created by Kermit the Frog. Christopher says, here in Melbourne we have 3 good museums. One steam rail Victoria for the preserved steam loco hauled, and the Red Rattler 707 operates for Seymour Rail Heritage for preserved diesel loco haul. It's not diesel though, is it, a Red Rattler? It's electric, isn't it? Yeah, it's electric. I'm sure it's electric. Yeah. Just don't go there. Just don't go there. Neville says, who trusts the government? A few years ago they told us to buy diesel. Can you really see America giving up oil? No, of course not, Neville. It's only us that have got to do it. Us that contribute less than 1% to global warming. If we all totally gave up everything that makes carbon, now, totally gave up everything, if we all totally gave up if we all totally gave up anything that allegedly